In the past, a woman used birth control primarily to avoid pregnancy, especially if she already had many children. Before the advent of modern medicine, pregnancy was a dangerous business, and many women died during or after childbirth. Much of the birth control methods that were developed were done so by trial and error, and the secrets that were discovered were quietly passed down from woman to woman. Birth control has always been used, but by 1844 the contraceptive industry was flourishing. Many new methods of birth control became available. Greater availability of birth control piqued America's interest in family planning. Some believe this industry had a negative impact on America. In 1873, the Comstock Law was passed, banning contraceptives. Margaret Sanger was a nurse. She did a lot of work in the slums with impoverished families. Her work in the slums and the death of her mother motivated her to become an advocate for better contraceptives and to open the first birth control clinic in America in 1916. Catherine McCormick was also an advocate for better contraceptives. Her husband had schizophrenia, so she vowed to never have children. When he died in 1947, leaving Curtis fortune, she funded the Pill Project in 1953. Margaret Sanger and Catherine McCormick were the leading forces behind the development of the magic pill.
The Comstock laws made it illegal to send obscene, lewd, and/or lascivious material through mail. Contraceptives were perceived as obscene because much of the general public did not accept it. The Comstock laws banned distribution of contraceptives and any distribution of information on abortion. Margaret Sanger, one of 11 children, lost her mother at an early age. She believes her young mother's death was caused by the massive number of children she carried and the stress produced by the children. After her mother's death, Sanger worked as a nurse and helped care for women that received back alley abortions. These abortions were very dangerous. Sanger then started to push hard for birth control. She wanted birth control legalized so that large immigrant families wouldn't be trapped in poverty with no money for a better living environment, and so that no woman would have to get back alley abortions. In 1914, Margaret Sanger created a journal called The Women Rebel. This journal consisted of information about birth control, as well as declared that a woman's body belonged to her. The Women Rebel was banned, and Sanger was tried for 9 violations of the Comstock laws. Margaret Sanger and Catherine McCormick met at one of Sanger's lectures in Boston. The two women teamed up and pushed for oral contraceptives together. Gregory Pincus, a biologist studying hormonal biology, found a way to reduce fertility of rabbits. Sanger and McCormick hear of his findings and come to him for help. McCormick, Sanger, and Pincus soon find out funding is going to be an issue for their project. Pincus sought out pharmaceutical company G.D. Searle for funding, but was rejected because it jeopardized the company due to Comstock laws. Frank Colton, a chemist at the company, accidentally developed a type of oral contraceptive, later named Enovid. Enovid became the first oral contraceptive and was approved by the FDA on May 11, 1960. By 1963, 1.2 million women were using it. The pill releases the hormone to your brain and makes your brain and body think it is already pregnant. Oral contraceptives are taken once a day, every day, at the same time. Perfect use of oral contraceptives leads to a 0.1% chance of becoming pregnant. Typical use of oral contraceptives leads to a 5% chance of becoming pregnant.
The birth control pill Enovid was approved by the FDA on May 11, 1960, generating an enormous impact on politics, economics, society, and religion, within 10 years of being on the market. Soon after the pill was approved by the FDA, the majority of the states in the United States lifted the laws restricting the use and distribution of contraceptives. At one point, birth control was viewed as obscene, but after people began to see how effective it was, it became widely accepted by most Americans. The Comstock Law was overturned in 1965 by the Supreme Court case of Griswold versus Connecticut, ruling that the private use of contraceptives was a constitutional right. By 1965, only 5 years had the pill been available. G.D. Searle made $89 million in sales of Enovid alone. Only 3 years later, Enovid sales hit the $150 million mark. Many believe the pill had a major role in forming the modern women's economic role. Enovid allowed women to go to college and pursue careers without the burden of settling down right after high school. The Industrial Revolution made many new jobs available. Women were able to fill some of the positions because they did not have to stay home and look after their family, which helped the economy. Because Innovit was the most effective method of birth control, and its use required no special preparations, and the choice to use contraceptives was a personal one, it became popular relatively quick after its introduction in the early 60s. By 1962, 1.2 million American women were taking the pill and 2.3 million in 1963. And by 1965, a whopping 6.5 million women were on the pill. The invention of the birth control pill led America into the sexual revolution of the 1960s. It gave men and women sexual freedom because they no longer feared becoming pregnant. For the first time ever in American history, people did not view sex as a private act. It was done out in the open. People were able to view sex as more than just a means of procreating. Now it could be seen as a way to show affection to your partner. In 1967, the Pittsburgh branch of the NAACP accused Planned Parenthood clinics of using oral contraceptives in low-income and minority neighborhoods to keep black birth rates low. They thought the clinics were using birth control as an instrument of racial genocide. The term black genocide came to be widely used in minority communities. In 1970, even though the Catholic Church still remained completely opposed to the artificial birth control, close to 67% of all Catholic women were using contraceptives, and 28% of those women were on the pill.
Family structure changed dramatically due to the creation of contraceptives. The average number of children in a family in the 1900s to 1950s was 5 to 6. The average number of children in a family now is 2 to 3. As birth control use increased, number of children in families decreased. Oral contraceptives gave women a new role in society. Women were no longer obligated to stay home and take care of the children. Women had more freedom to do as they pleased. More women started getting jobs and attending college. Birth control also gave women new freedom. Women were now able to have sex while unwed. They finally got one of the same rights as men, to have sex for pleasure. Now birth control is more widely accepted because it is more oftenly used. 100 million women use one form of contraceptives now, compared to the 6.5 million in 1965. Oral contraceptives have created the base for new forms of contraceptives. IDUs, Depo-Provera, and the patch are some of the modern forms of birth control. Because the use of contraceptives has increased, Comstock laws were overturned.